pigmentation of their skin color and use products that are branded for what they are not. And they end up, some even getting infected with diseases that eventually become cancerous to their skins. Therefore, these amendments will speak to such issues, Honorable Speaker. If you look at Clause 20, it mandates that the disposal of counterfeit goods must strictly be governed by environmental safety standards and court orders. Honorable Speaker, you know, when we said here that there was a cabinet secretary, former cabinet secretary for Interior, who actually caused people to die out of depression when they banned goods that were branded as counterfeit. And these things had never been taken to any court of law. Nobody had declared them counterfeit, but people in the Ministry of Interior in 2021 decided that they are the ones, together with a few officers of the then Anti-Counterfeit Authority, to declare what is counterfeit and what is not counterfeit. Honorable Speaker, you know, it caused immense pain, especially to many traders in Nyamakema and Kamukunji areas whose goods were impounded and burnt down, Honorable Speaker. Now we are making it mandatory that you must have explicit court orders, and whatever is being disposed must be governed by environmental standards, so that even things that may be detrimental, like battery cells, that must be disposed in a certain way, then you make sure that they are disposed in that manner that is environmentally safe and following court orders. Clause 23 drastically escalates the anti-counterfeit penalties, making offenders liable to fines of up to 2 million shillings and 3 years imprisonment or both, to ensure that nobody deliberately brings in counterfeits that are detrimental to the health or the safety of the citizens of Kenya. And should you contravene, Honorable Speaker, you'll be liable either to a fine of up to 2 million shillings or 3 years imprisonment or both. Honorable Speaker, if I touch on, I've spoken a bit on the clauses that touched on affordable housing and land timelines, and Clause 13 amends the Affordable Housing Act by integrating crucial new definitions into the Act, legally protecting structures like Sharia-compliant financing administration fees. Clause 14 significantly accelerates land transaction timelines under the affordable housing by reducing a chargee's statutory notification period from 90 days to only 45 days. You now don't need 90 days, you only need 45 days to be able to charge your affordable housing units. Clause 15 establishes that a chargee must respect a tight 20-day timeline before exercising the power of sale of property under an affordable housing scheme, so that you must have a statutory timeline of at least 20 days before you exercise the power of sale if a chargee or a financial institution that has advanced money to a citizen to buy an affordable housing unit, you must adhere to these very strict timelines, so that, again, because these affordable housing units are being sold to people who would otherwise not have been able to ever own a house. Should maybe someone lose their source of income, maybe you lose your job, financial institutions will not be in a rush to auction your property and you lose your property. We therefore want to protect citizens to make sure that they are not auctioned at will by our banks and other financial institutions that we have opened up, including the microfinance institutions, which under the Central Bank Amendment Bill, we have opened them up to also be able to finance many of these affordable housing units. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, this bill contains very vital provisions that cut across county governments, regulate critical business operations, and act as a necessary money bill to bolster national growth. Honorable Speaker, as I had mentioned, many of those amendments also touch on inter-county, intra-county business flow and flow of trade. And Honorable Speaker, as I said, the Committee of Finance and National Planning considered this bill. The Trade Committee, under the able leadership of the member for Aldai and the Honorable Shinali, also considered these business laws. And they have made sure that we remove many of the barriers of trade that are there between our counties so that we have efficient flow of trade in our counties and in our country, even as we seek to encourage our foreign direct investment investors, or those who seek to invest in our country using foreign direct investments. Honorable Speaker, I now want to beg you that you allow me to move this bill to allow other members to contribute, and I would like to request the Honorable Vice Chair of the Trade Committee, the Honorable Member for Aldai, Marianne Keitany, to second this bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to second the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024. And as I second, Honorable Speaker, we need to appreciate that the business environment in this country has to be improved. I know it is good, but we have to improve it more. And in that process, we are looking at investments that come into this country and those that are currently running within this country. Starting with the businesses that are within this country, we know that there are businesses that run across counties. And sometime last year, we passed a bill, which is now an act of parliament, that is called the County Licensing Bill, that looked at making sure that there is seamless business operations between or across counties. This particular amendment then further improves that particular area by ensuring that there are information sharing across counties so that businesses can seamlessly trade across businesses. In terms of investment promotion, especially for investors and businesses that are coming into this country, we expect or we would like that these people do not meet otherwise brokers or people who would take advantage of them by ensuring that the people who bring direct foreign investment are registered by Kenya Investment Promotion to ensure that all these businessmen and women who come into this country get a good working environment. The issues of employment is also not left out, because a lot of work that is being done by many of our young people, especially under the BPO, require a lot of legislation to ensure that they are not taken advantage of as they are running their businesses. Issues to do with anti-counterfeit. I think anti-counterfeit or counterfeited products have found their way, a lot of it into the country, and that affects real genuine businesses and disrupts business operations. So the amendments to the Anti-Counterfeit Act also allows that those products that are seized because they are anti-counterfeited are managed in such a way that they don't get back into the country. There are many issues also, including issues on affordable housing and land timelines, because as we can see across the country, we have affordable housings that are going on. And most of these affordable housing projects are done in properties that are ideally supposed to be counties, and the licensing between counties and the national government to ensure that that particular plot of land is available for affordable housing, as well as the sale of these affordable houses to the public. Then this particular amendment will allow that the chargee process is also reduced from 90 days to 45 days to allow also that all these young people who have invested in affordable housing are able to then take advantage of those houses and be able to enhance their business operations. I think the bill comes at a better time, because it allows businesses generally in this country to be able to trade and to be able to work in a way that will bring not only income to this country, but also enrich the businessmen and women who will be dealing in this business. And I stand to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024, be read a second time. Members who want to contribute, kindly press the intervention button. Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me also to make a comment as I stand to support this bill, the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024. As I do so, Honorable Speaker, we need to bring some facts to bear, very, very clear. Honorable Speaker, a number of the bills acts of parliament being amended fall within the purview of the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, and I want to go on record and have asked the Office of the Clerk to confirm those provisions were never submitted or presented to the committee to review and undertake public participation. And I beg to be forgiven if it turns out not to be correct. I will withdraw because I've asked the Office of the Clerk. I am not aware that it was ever presented to the committee for public participation and processing as required under the standing order.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, just to inform the Honorable Undo, as I said when I was moving, this bill had been considered for public participation as part of the 2024 Finance Bill by the National Planning and Finance Committee of the National Assembly. You remember then we split those into four bills. This bill, the provisions of business laws, what we christened 2, went to the Senate, and public participation was actually done by the Senate. And in line with what we had agreed to ensure that we conform to the Constitution on prudent management of public resources. When public participation has been done by one house, we do not repeat the same public participation. And actually, this bill has gone through public participation at 2 levels in the National Assembly, since all the provisions here had been taken through public participation. The report is there, you can confirm. It had gone through public participation in 2024, and the Senate also did public participation.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Records will stay for itself. We'll review and let the members of public decide what to do with that kind of information. Honorable Speaker, allow me to touch, first of all, for a start, to touch on the provisions relating to counterfeiting, the Counterfeiting Act. And the Counterfeiting Act, Counterfeiting Act. Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes to make drastic changes to the way the authority undertakes its function. One of the most telling change that the amendment bill proposed to do is to define the word disposal. Actually, Honorable Speaker, and this we need to be very careful, they are proposing to change from destruction to disposal. Because ordinarily, once the counterfeit goods are seized, the current act requires they must be destroyed. Once they have been determined to be counterfeit, they have gone through the process, they are required to be destroyed for destruction. The bill at hand here, Honorable Speaker, it says we need to delete the term destruction and use the word disposal. And this is what I want my colleagues to listen, and I want everybody who cares to listen. Disposal now means alienation, donation, conversion, and destruction by any means, or alienation by way of donation of seized or counterfeit goods, depending on their nature, effect on public health, and natural resources. Honorable Speaker and members, colleagues, you need to be very careful. What this is saying, in essence, that once goods have been determined to be counterfeit, they have been seized through the lawful process, there could be a back door, how they can find their way back into the market by way of donation. Honorable Speaker, we then, in essence, we have killed the spirit. We have literally killed the fight against counterfeit, the fight against harmful products. Honorable Speaker, that's a matter, as a country, we must have a very honest discussion to ensure that we deal with it. Second, Honorable Speaker, the provisions relating to Investment Promotion Act. Honorable Speaker, it proposes to establish a broker or a facilitator to facilitate registration or a certification of an FDI, foreign direct investor. Honorable Speaker, there's nowhere where the qualification academic or professional qualification of the so-called facilitator is provided. Honorable Speaker, I remember in the 12th Parliament, the MP for, I think was Makueni, where Honorable Mutuse now holds forth, Dr. Musimba, brought a legislative proposal calling for a lobbyist bill that would have actually allowed anybody to lobby any government department, to lobby anyone for purposes of undertaking some business, to ensure some business is undertaken. Honorable Speaker, without a proper definition of brokers, of a facilitator, a person who seeks to engage in business facilitate foreign direct investors, Honorable Speaker, we are creating a dangerous situation. We are creating brokers with bad and good intention altogether that are going to destroy this particular country. Honorable Speaker, last weekend, there was talk that, I mean, this has happened all over, where some brokers, some conmen would normally approach people, carry them and take them to government offices and broker non-existent deals and non-existent tenders and leave people having lost money substantially. Honorable Speaker, I do believe we Kenyans must be very careful as we try to make things run, in a haste to make things run, but we create a monster that's going to destroy the very essence of business management in this country. The other provision, Honorable Speaker, is the provision under Clause 6 that makes the repealing Section 8 of the Investment Promotion Act and substituting with the following. An investment certificate once issued shall not be transferable to another person. Honorable Speaker, we are again creating bottlenecks. We are creating bottlenecks. You remember very well, this country remembers well. We were unable to conclude the extraction or exploitation of the oil in Turkana because Tullow Oil Company ran into challenges, technical challenges, financing challenges, and the process of transferring until we got the new arrangement took very many years. If an investor who has gotten a certificate to undertake any business in this country and has run into technical challenges, we must make the transfer process seamless, subject to fulfilling some kind of procedures or rules altogether. But to basically indicate that we don't, such cannot happen, is literally to kill the spirit, probably in which the bill is anchored to facilitate direct foreign investment and to facilitate trade in this country. Clause 11B is much welcome, which really makes a one-stop place for any investor. And I'm happy that's both physical and digital, and I can see them, my friend the MP for Dagoret, is it Dagoret South or Dagoret North, Honorable Kiari, this comes his area of interest to digitize processes, but as we digitize, I hope there's sufficient safeguards and security measures to avoid misuse of information. Probably as we do this, we must put also cognizance the Data Protection Act to ensure that we get things running through. Honorable Speaker, the bill as well, under Clause 8, limits the number of permits that can be given to outsiders. It limits to 6 to shareholders and partners, 6 to work permits for management and technical staff. Honorable Speaker, we must also ask the following question. Does it mean we don't have technical staff in this country? I think this country has invested immensely, and I think at the Committee of the Whole House, we must move an amendment to make it mandatory that only such kind of permits can be issued where there is no people or Kenyans with equivalent qualifications and experience, so that Kenyans continuously get jobs. We don't want to get to such a stressful position that we are seeing in South Africa at the moment, where the locals rise up against Kenyans. I'm told there is an ongoing influx of Burundians in this country that are taking up many of the jobs that Kenyans have been doing all along, now it's going to cause another issue. Honorable Speaker, there are further amendments to the Employment Act, and I want to draw the attention under Clause 10 that seems to redefine who an employer is. That extending that definition, that's going to become extremely dangerous as we move forward. An agent, a foreman, especially an agent, has been categorized as an employee. An agent has been categorized as an employee. So that means even if I've got a separate arrangement with an agent, with a proper agent's agreement or contract, that becomes an employee, in which event you must as well provide all the benefits and take liability for any act of an agent, even if that agent works for multiple employers elsewhere in the country. So, Honorable Speaker, as much as this bill is laudable, I would request whichever the lead agency that's entitled to look at this, they need to look at very clearly so that to make sure that we protect the interests of the Kenyans, we make sure we protect the lives and health of the people, we avoid stories whereby we do things that are going to harm our people. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, the majority leader has raised a very fundamental issue of duplication of public resources to undertake public participation by both houses. And I hope, Honorable Speaker, now that becomes like what we would call case law, will never be taken to another round of circus that was especially a case, let's do a separate case. In short, I support.
Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also stand to support the Business Laws Amendment Bill, which is in essence an omnibus bill that seeks to amend a couple of acts of Parliament in line with what the mover did say in regards to the current situation and what has happened within the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, I just want to specifically mention a couple of clauses that I feel are very important to us and to the people of Kenya. The first one, Honorable Speaker, being the issue of the Investment Promotion Act, which when you look at clause 6 to 9, has clearly outlined the amendments that are being proposed therein, one of which being maintenance of the register and also ensuring that there is provision for a comprehensive centralized facility where registration can actually take place, and also collaboration with other public institutions. Honorable Speaker, the other very important amendment that we have is in line with the Employment Act, and in particular clauses 10 and 11. And just as Honorable Oundo has clearly outlined, this is very important, especially because we now have a comprehensive definition of what an employer and an employee is, including, Honorable Speaker, to people who work within the technology enabling environment, and also to people who work on-site and off-site. And Honorable Speaker, I know this is one area that the chair of CII is very happy about, because we've had very many conversations and engagements about the gig economy and how, as Parliament, we can seek to ensure that we are supporting the gig economy. Because nowadays, Honorable Speaker, a lot of people are doing either one or more jobs, or they're actually working away from home, not on site. So, Honorable Speaker, this is very, very important for them, because now the definition actually covers the areas that are relating to them. Honorable Speaker, if you also look at the clause 9, which speaks about the Occupation Safety and Health Act, this has also ensured, especially on clause 12, that it has realigned and redefined the employer to be in line with the previous clauses that I have talked about, so that now they are properly aligned. And also, Honorable Speaker, there's a comprehensive definition of a workplace to include land, premises, on-site, remote locations, including on a vessel, because, Honorable Speaker, there are instances where people actually work in a vessel that is moving. So this for them is very important, so that in matters relating to occupation safety and healthy, then in essence they are covered. Honorable Speaker, another set of amendments that are very comprehensive and very important is from clause 16 through to clause 24, which talks about the Anti-Counterfeit Act and the various issues that have actually been mentioned there. Honorable Speaker, one of the issues that I really want to emphasize on is when you look at clause 19, part C, which then gives a comprehensive definition of what we call disposal, because we were only focusing on just one particular term, which is destruction. But now disposal, Honorable Speaker, seeks to ensure that the harmful commodities that are within the market, that there is proper disposal of this, that they are seized, they are detained, and where applicable, removed for detention, any tools which may be used in the manufacturing, production, and making or packaging of these goods. Honorable Speaker, this is very important because just destruction of the counterfeit goods is not good enough. We also need to have a system in place where there's actually a proper investigation into what is contained in these particular goods. Honorable Speaker, just to cite the example that was given earlier by the Majority Leader in terms of some of the products that are used by not only ladies but also men as well, is that this definition then really assists us to make sure that within the market, within Kenya, we are protecting the consumers properly. And so, Honorable Speaker, the business laws that we do have in place are very important. There are quite a number of them, quite very detailed, but also very significant for all of us. And for those reasons, Honorable Speaker, I support and I submit. I thank you.
Thank you. And before we proceed on, I'd like to recognize the Nandi County University Students Association from Nandi County, who are seated in the public gallery. On behalf of the substantive speaker and myself, we welcome you to the presence of Parliament. Thank you. Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuunga marekebisho ya mswada huu ulioletwa bungeni ibara 51 ya mwaka 2024. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa mapokezi ya mswada huu marekebisho nimepokea vizuri sana Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu makusudi yake ni kunyoosha hasa tukiingia katika mfumo wa dijitali ili kuweza kuangalia na kuweka ile data kamili, tujue nani anaingiza mzigo katika taifa, wale ambao wanataka kufanya biashara katika taifa hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, wamepewa mwafaka vizuri wa kuweza kujua na kufanywa wepesi wa kujiandikisha kwenye makampuni tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia katika special economic zone, mambo ya kuleta miundo misingi na mambo mengi sana ya biashara. Mheshimiwa Spika, juzi na jana tumeenda kupata mafunzo Singapore. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kule tumepata mfumo wao wa kidijitali. Mheshimiwa Spika, imeweza kuwapa malengo mazuri sana, mpaka imeweza kuvutia wawekezaji wengi sana wa makampuni tofauti tofauti katika Singapore, ambayo ndio imewapa mwanya mkubwa sana wa kuweza kufanya biashara, kufungua biashara tofauti tofauti, na biashara zikifunguliwa watoto wa kule wamekuwa wakipata kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa muda mrefu Kenya tumelia ukosefu wa ajira, lakini ni kwa sababu sisi tulikuwa hatuna mfumo mzuri na ule ambao unaweza kuwavutia wale wawekezaji. Lakini mfumo huu ambao umewekwa katika hino bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, kama mswada huu, ni mfumo ambao unaweka wazi, unaonyesha kuwa hakuna siri zingine mbovu ambazo mwekezaji aweza kuwa na uoga wa kuweza kuwekeza hapa Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo mimi nikiangalia hata pale Dongo Kundu tunahitaji wawekezaji wengi sana waje, na pengine ule mfumo uliokuweko mwanzo ulikuwa unaweza kuwaregesha nyuma sana wawekezaji wengi. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini wamewekewa wazi kabisa bayana kuwa hapa unaweza kuangalia uweza kuleta kitu gani, ukauza nini, na ukajaza katika njia elektroniki na ukaweza kujirejista katika Kenya na ukaleta biashara. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia pia Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza kunyoosha mabenki yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Ilikuwa wengine wanafanya mambo ya ujanja ndani ya benki, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini naona umepatia nguvu Benki Kuu ya Taifa, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili kuweza kuangalia hizi benki ndogo ndogo waweze kufuata sheria vile inavyotakikana, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambalo ni jambo zuri sana. Na ukiangalia pia wale ambao walikuwa wakitoa mikopo kwa watu au ambao mnawaita lenders au ambao wanafanya kama microfinance, Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya wengi walikuwa wanahangaika sana, lakini katika mswada huu imeweza kuwasaidia Wakenya. Watakuwa wanaelewa kuwa hapa, hata kama Banki Kuu itakuwa inawaangalia wale, watakuwa wanajua hapa Mkenya amekosewa ama amekiwa sahihi, iko sawa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo najua kutokana na mswada huu hata wale microfinance pia wataweza kuwapa Wakenya heshima yao na kuweza kufanya kazi kama vile sheria inavyotaka, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia inafanya wepesi wa biashara ama trade kuweza kuwa na wepesi zaidi sana katika bili hii, Mheshimiwa Spika. Zamani ilikuwa watu wanatumia kanjanja, njia ya nyuma, Mheshimiwa Spika, tukawa tunapata hata kuna wakati tumepata sukari, mchele mara ya plastiki, ile kuchunguza inakuwa ngumu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ijulikani nani alileta. Lakini katika mfumo huu, Mheshimiwa Spika, inaweka wazi kuwa hata yule mwanabiashara atakuwa anaonekana katika sheria wazi. Ukiingia tu kwenye dijitali unaangalia, unajua huyu ameleta nini, nani muhusika mkuu wa biashara fulani, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kama walivyozungumza wenzangu hapo mbele, mimi naona tu niunge mkono, kwa sababu mambo yaliyoko hapa kwenye hii bill ni mambo mazuri sana tena sana, na hasa kupatia nguvu Central Bank ya Kenya ama Banki Kuu ya Taifa kuweza kuangalia na kufuata sheria ili haya mabanki mengine yasiweze kuvunja sheria. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia Mombasa County tumekuwa mpaka na mjane ambaye amekuwa akilalamika, Mheshimiwa Spika, hajui akaunti yake ilitolewa vipi pesa, mume wake alikufa, lakini mtu akafanya filfinyange yake akatoa pesa za mume wake. Sasa amekuwa baina ya koti na kujificha, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu mfumo haujakaa sawa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kitu kama hichi, sheria ambayo inaletwa, na nilisikia Mheshimiwa kiongozi wa wengi akisema 2024 wale ambao walipinga hiyo bill hii ilikuwa ndani. Wajua Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu kizuri kikijificha ndani ya vitu vingine ambavyo havijakaa vizuri sana, mambo hutokea kama haya. Lakini maadamu imeletwa hapa, tunaweza kuipiga msasa, na mimi naweza kuisupport, Mheshimiwa Kuria. Hii ni kitu kizuri, kama mama kaunti wa Mombasa mimi naipiga support na nasema ni bili nzuri. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Honorable Speaker, I ran into a risk of trying to give a point of information to the honorable member in Swahili, and then I'll have to make my contributions in Swahili, and then I'll be stuck. So I think I'll just make my contribution on what I want to do, a point of information to the great member for Mombasa County in English, and tell the member, these are some of the issues that it's very important that I brought to this House. It is important that you seek a statement, and it comes to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, so that we can make Central Bank to be accountable in the supervision of those banks. What the honorable member is saying about withdrawals being made on members' account on commercial banks without the authority of the customers, it's something that is very widespread. We are seeing a lot of that in social media, and we must bring that to the end. And because you have given Central Bank powers to bite through the many amendments you've done to the CBK Act, by giving those powers, Honorable Member, I want you to bring that request to this House so that we make sure that that vulnerable customer gets her right and gets her money refunded.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa ndugu yangu Kuria. Ni kitu ambacho kimenisumbua sana, na huu mjane amelia sana miaka mingi. mamilioni ya pesa ambayo yameenda hivi. Na mimi nashukuru umenipa nguvu ya kuweza kuileta hapa, manake mwanzo nilileta ikawa imepotea pale table office, haikuweza kufika. Kwa hiyo nitaifuatilia ili niweze kumsaidia huu mjana anaitwa Mama Jaizan aweze kupata haki yake, manake mume wake amekufa na pesa zilitolewa hundreds of millions zilitolewa kwenye account na sasa bado yatishiwa mpaka maisha. Kwa hiyo bili hii mimi naisupport sana na nasema umefanya kazi nzuri kama kamati. Asante sana.
You may proceed, Honorable Kimani Kuya.
Thank you very much, and I want to guarantee the honorable member from Mombasa. You know, like the leader of majority said, this Senate Bill number 51 was taken to the Senate in 2024. It has taken that honorable house 1 year and a half to process a very simple bill of like 5-6 pages. And now we are wondering, what if they were to process the many bills we process in this house? We probably will end up with an end of an election cycle without seeing any single bill being processed by that House, Honorable Speaker. So I want to assure the Honorable MP from Mombasa that we shall, if you bring the statement tomorrow, we'll give a response by the time we are coming back from recess. Honorable Speaker, this omnibus bill is seeking to modernize Kenya's legal and regulatory framework to create a more competitive, transparent, and investor-friendly business environment. Honorable Speaker, it's important to mention that this is aligning well with international best practice, investments facilitation, regulatory efficiency, and digital economy governance. These principles, Honorable Speaker, are the ones that are championed by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. They are also that are championed by the World Bank's doing business methodology and successful investment agencies in countries that we emulate in terms of investment, good investment policies like Singapore, Mauritius, and United Arab Emirates. Honorable Speaker, this bill is a perfect example of the promise the Kenya Kwanza administration made to Kenyans, that the administration of this government will be based on its manifesto. And Honorable Speaker, one of the greatest manifestos that when we're doing the economic agendas across the county was the issue of ease of doing business, was ease of investment in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, this bill shows that this administration is not just making promises on its manifesto, but is making laws, is making policies that implement its manifesto agenda after agenda, Honorable Speaker. And perhaps this is what differentiates this administration from the previous administrations that have been based on ethnic mantras. So where every election is a few kingpins, if we call them, combined together and decide this is how we are going to go. By the time we are going to the next election, the party composition has changed, the leadership has changed, and then a different agenda has taken force, Honorable Speaker. This shows the commitment of the Kenya Kwanza administration of making policies and laws that implements its Kenya bottom-up transformation agenda, Honorable Speaker. This is going to reduce bureaucratic hurdles, provide a regulatory framework, protect workers and consumers, and position Kenya as a preferred destination for quality foreign direct investments. Honorable Speaker, the facilitation of a one-stop shop model is going to establish a centralized, and it's important to mention it's going to be both physical and digital. So we're going to have a both physical and digital facility for all investor services. And this, Honorable Speaker, is a proven test best practice record used by top-performing investment promotion agencies worldwide. Honorable Speaker, it's going to have a clear criteria for foreign direct investment registration, investment certificates, reducing discretion, and enhancing investor confidence. Those are the days where now you'll have to know somebody in the office, Honorable Speaker, to be registered or to be licensed as an investor, because this law is providing that seamless legal framework that differentiates investors from Honorable Speaker and gives them even investment certificates showing their commitment to investment in our country. Honorable Speaker, it's going to have balanced speed and safeguards. It's going to accelerate processes, especially on the matter of affordable housing, while maintaining protection for workers, consumers, and environment. Honorable Speaker, the issue of intellectual property has been talked about here, Honorable Speaker. We've seen in previous administration where counterfeit goods were just burnt without any warning to the business people, Honorable Speaker. And most of the time, the businesses were found in a way, Honorable Speaker. You will see recently, Honorable Speaker, we have been treated to a few shows, Honorable Speaker, of legitimate brands. You know, a few of the international legitimate brands, Honorable Speaker, have now opened shops in Nairobi. And Honorable Speaker, Kenyans have been wondering now what brands they've been wearing because the prices of those brands have been very different from what you buy from the markets, Honorable Speaker. So some of the time, these business people, they are found not because they deliberately buying or trading in counterfeit products, but because they didn't know, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, there are now safeguards that ensures even in the event that you are trading in counterfeit products and you did not, Honorable Speaker, there is legal redress that is given to you, Honorable Speaker. The bill is introducing accreditation of investments facilitators with clear procedures, penalties, and which is going to promote professionalism and accountability, Honorable Speaker. However, after continuous assessment, Honorable Speaker, and public participation, our committee will be recommending that we have a reporting requirement for this particular investment certificate holders, Honorable Speaker. We're going to require the investors to tell us, since you have given them these incentives to work in our country, since you've given them these licenses, since you've given them this preferential treatment as investors, how many employees have they employed? How many products have they manufactured, Honorable Speaker? What technology transfers have they done to our locals, Honorable Speaker? Because, Honorable Speaker, we've had, for example, this big problem, especially in SEZs. Well, Honorable Speaker, we have SEZ registered persons. And then when you go to that SEZ, it's just empty land. Honorable Speaker, they are reporting huge investment deductions, they're reporting huge tax and Honorable Speaker, only to realize that they're not making any contribution to our economy, Honorable Speaker, by just being as a tax haven, Honorable Speaker. This one-stop facility is going to be a centralized, as I said, both physical and digital. It's going to cover business registration, tax, customs, immigration work permits, county approvals, utilities, SEZ admissions, environmental compliance, among many others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this reminds me of the legendary invention of Huduma centers, Honorable Speaker. Before the invention of Huduma, before the creation of Huduma centers, you needed to go to one office for a birth certificate, for another one for a marriage certificate, for another one for an ID, for another one for a voter's card, Honorable Speaker. But the invention of Huduma centers revolutionized how Kenyans receive how individual Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, received government services. Honorable Speaker, this Invest Kenya offices, therefore, Honorable Speaker, will be the new Huduma centers of investors, Honorable Speaker. So the revolution that Huduma centers did, Honorable Speaker, is what we hope that this particular Invest Kenya offices, Honorable Speaker, will do to our business people and to investors. Honorable Speaker, the issue of employees has been talked about, and the definition of employees as per the Employees Act. Honorable Speaker, the issue of business process outsourcing is now the new era of employment globally, Honorable Speaker. You know, companies have established that their business, if my business is, for example, to sell in a supermarket, is a retail business, Honorable Speaker, like a supermarket, the owners of this business have realized that it's not their business to police which employees get late, who does not perform very well, who leaves early, Honorable Speaker, whose maternity leave is coming up, whose paternity leave is coming up, who is holding for Honorable Speaker. And they have now tells that business, and you have now very many successful businesses that are doing the business of just employee handling, Honorable Speaker. And it's very important, therefore, that we redefine or we cause now a different definition of who an employee is in the Employment Act so that to reflect this new reality of business process outsourcing, and also remote location working, Honorable Speaker. But it's also important, Honorable Speaker, as we do that, we also define what workers are going to be put in place to make sure that these remote location employees, Honorable Speaker, are also subject to abuse, Honorable Speaker. We have enough safeguards in the Employment Act on leaves, on holidays, on working hours, Honorable Speaker, and therefore it's also important, even as we introduce this amendment to allow business process outsourcing to the definition of employer, to make sure that also these remotely employed employees enjoy the same rights as the physically employed employees, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of affordable housing, the shortening of the timelines from 45 days to 20 days, Honorable Speaker, is very important because it's going to accelerate delivery. However, Honorable Speaker, it's also important that we look at how this may not be exploited, Honorable Speaker, especially for a vulnerable household, Honorable Speaker, so that we ensure that there is a balance between that service delivery, Honorable Speaker, and is not subject to abuse, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of counterfeits, there is now going to be introduction of seizure and disposal of non-compliant goods and introducing a stronger penalties of up to 2 million shillings or 3 million shillings in payments, Honorable Speaker. As I said, the seizure has now to be supported by a court order, and even if there is disposal, then that disposal must be environmentally sensitive, Honorable Speaker. You know, there is a joke that was happening around when some counterfeit, not counterfeit, some drugs, Honorable Speaker. I think it was I forget which drugs were found, and then they were burnt down. And then the officers who are supervising the burning of these drugs, Honorable Speaker, were just standing next to those drugs, Honorable Speaker. And now you can imagine now that means they were smoking those drugs, Honorable Speaker, that they were purporting to dispose. So it's very important that we safeguard the environmental sensitivity, Honorable Speaker, even when we are disposing some of these products, Honorable Speaker. Again, this is going to make sure that we protect our environment. Overall benefits, Honorable Speaker, on ease of doing business, this bill is going to reduce redundant bureaucracy through the one-stop facility and clearer procedures. It's going to ensure there's greater predictability and transparency in foreign direct investment processes and regulatory requirements. It's going to ensure there's lower transaction costs and time for investors and businesses. There's going to be a modern labor framework that supports digital economy growth while upholding worker protections, Honorable Speaker. And it's also going to ensure there is stronger IP enforcement that safeguards innovation and investment. And lastly, it's going to ensure there is targeted acceleration of strategic sectors, especially affordable housing and FDI session, Honorable Speaker. So my call for action, Honorable Speaker, on this particular bill is that this bill is representing best practice legislative reform that will reduce red tape, enhance transparency, modernize our laws for the digital age, and make Kenya a more attractive destination for quality investment. It directly improves our ease of doing business while protecting Kenyan workers, consumers, and national interests. I urge members to support the bill at second reading and during the Committee of the Whole House so that we can deliver tangible improvements in our business environment and accelerate economic transformation. Honorable Chairperson, in as much as now we're involving counties in terms of on this licensing, Honorable Speaker, it's important we give them responsibilities, Honorable Speaker, because what you've seen also counties do, where particular functions have been carried over by national government, then you have county governments giving it a bath, Honorable Speaker, and therefore making it even more difficult, Honorable Speaker. And lastly, it's also very important that this House allocates enough resources, Honorable Speaker, to this new entity so that it carries out the expanded mandate, Honorable Speaker, that's doing. And perhaps now that this bill, with now Senate taking more than 1.5 years to bring this bill back to this House, we might have to through the Budget and Appropriation Committee and the Trade Committee, when if we'll be considering a supplementary budget to make sure that this institution is now well resourced. Because my presumption is the resources that were given to this institution was before the passing of this law, which means before the additional responsibilities that have been given to Kenya Invest. So, Honorable Speaker, let us pass this bill to send a clear signal to investors, local and foreign, that Kenya is open to quality business. It is ready for digital economy and committed to a predictable, efficient, and fair regulation. That, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Has the question been proposed?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to support the Business Law Amendment Bill 2024 that was originated for the Senate and also tabled by Honorable Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, I also sat in the Committee of Trade, Cooperative and Industry, and we are happy to see this bill, and just consulted with my colleague, and I've been told that it is started 2024. So, and we would like to give our views in the House. But I also just to comment that basically, when you check on the purpose of the bill, bringing this business, bring the business in one center, that is a registration of foreign direct investment and accreditation of facilitators for foreign investors. it is something that internationally is happening. And I'm happy that I also relate with it, Mr. Speaker, because I come from the border in Loitoktok, place around last is a place called Taveta. It's called Tarakea, it's our border. And even within the Taveta, there's also another border there. And the benefit people are getting from Namanga on the clearing of goods because of one-stop center that is there, that is being contributed to Kenya and Tanzania, the movement of goods is becoming so easy. Mr. Speaker, at a time that we try to bring everything together because the business bills that operate within the environment of the business, there are so many. So by putting them together, it's going to assist us a lot. And I was trying to check on a bill that, or what is internationally practical. If you check on the omnibus bill in UK, they've also introduced the same thing. This country, in the 13th Parliament, I don't want to say about the other, the 12th and 11th, but the 13th Parliament is doing a lot. I've tried to check even they have even assisted. And I want to tell Majority Leader, this bill is good because it's from the Senate. The people who have always taking us behind, dragging us in to make sure the bills are coming faster, is the Senate. Because the other time we started the county licensing procedural bill, whereby we say that a license from Kajiado can be practical in Kiambu, can be practical in Kisumu, can be practical in Siaya, whereby when you clear a good from Mombasa, you don't have a lot of problem in terms of people stopping you in the roads, trying to check on which kind of license do you have. And that one has sorted our issues in terms of transport, and they are very happy. When we check about Huduma Center, the theory behind Huduma Centers, my colleagues have said, it was just bringing all services within one umbrella. And that one has really sorted everything. So I urge this House today that as we are supporting this bill, we clearly see it does not contravene the Constitution or trying to destroy or end the amendments of the Constitution. It's just trying to make it everything simple and precise. The issue of central bank being given the oversight role, expansion of central bank to be given oversight role in the proposed bill, is something, Mr. Speaker, that's very encouraging. Private sector are included. Manufacturers are included. You can go on and on. In the counterfeit that we have been having a challenge, Mr. Speaker, importation of goods that comes from outside the country, sometimes we find them, they don't meet standards. But having an authority to control becomes a challenge, Mr. Speaker. We have been under counterfeit, although itself always appears to us as a committee. We try to challenge them. We try to ask them, what are we seeing this what does not come in, that's not meeting standard. I remember when the time of the China Square, when we are arguing about the China Square products from China being sold in this country, in this like a product that's supposed to go for, they are getting them cheaply there. We don't know the standard, but now our local traders in River Road, in hawkers, got this advantage. But later, the fight keeps on going. But there was nothing to control them. So having this one, which is international, either physically, you see the bill proposed, it can be physical or digital. Meaning that even if you are bringing things from outside the country or anything that's coming outside the country is in one direction. There is an authority. There are people who are going to be answerable. There are people who can be able to check and report this committee. So the issue of standard and quality is going to be achieved. So, Mr. Speaker, when you look about the issue of housing, the issue of lands, there are so many things that have been captured in this bill, Mr. Speaker, that I urge this House, let us all of us support this bill, and if possible, we move faster on this one because it's really touching across the line of the business atmosphere in our country. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to give me to contribute, and I support this bill. Thank you.
Point of order, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to rise on standing order 96.
Yes.
To seek adjournment of this debate, Honorable Speaker, because of the issues some of the issues that we had spoken to that Honorable Ondo had also alluded to. The committee is still considering part of this bill, therefore seek the indulgence of the House that we adjourn this debate to a later date to allow us to touch on the competition amendment bill and also the report on the audited financial statements for the 6 state corporations. Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the debate be now adjourned. Honorable members, I put the question, the debate be now adjourned. As many as to opinion say aye. Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, second reading.
Majority Leader, proceed.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I was consulting Honorable Ondo. He's very mischievous at times. I wanted to imagine that we are climbing down on that debate is because we want to also touch on this competition amendment bill that is very critical and also allow the Committee on Trade to finish the consultations that they are doing on that particular bill. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the competition amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill is also still undergoing public participation by the Committee of Finance and National Planning, and therefore from the onset just to indicate that we do not seek to conclude debate on this bill because the committee is still considering the public participation on this particular bill. But considering that we debate the bill, we can begin debate, but we also be seeking at some point, the chair of the committee will be seeking adjournment to a later date to allow us to conclude with debate after the committee has concluded with its engagement with stakeholders. But this is a very important bill, Honorable Speaker, whose key objective is to amend the Competition Act. And you know we have had a Competition Act that has served this country very well. But with emerging technological changes, especially in the digital marketplace, there are certain changes that require further amendments to our Competition Act to ensure that we align our legal framework with the emerging realities in that digital economy. Honorable Speaker, you know, when the Competition Act was done some years back, the digital commerce space was not as robust as it is today. And today we have a very robust digital space, marketplace, and a lot of our people are trading on the digital marketplace. Therefore, you may find that there are also dominant players that are in play in the digital marketplace and are engaging in practices that are against the Competition Act. And therefore, we must align our Competition Act to be in line with the changing technological world. Honorable Speaker, the primary objective, therefore, of this bill is, as I said, first, to have that robust legal parameter that we identify, monitor, and regulate dominant players and intermediaries operating across online platforms, so that even on our online platforms, online marketing platforms, we don't have dominant players who will then edge out any competition, especially from our young people who are using our digital space or digital platforms or online platforms to market goods and services, and they may be subjected to a lot of unfair competition by people who are dominant or bigger corporate players who are dominant. Two, we seek to prohibit the abuse of superior bargaining positions, preventing powerful corporates or powerful corporate actors from exploiting vulnerable business counterparties or vulnerable entrepreneurs who may suffer the fate because probably what you are producing, and this, Honorable Speaker, pertains more so to farmers and those who are dealing with agricultural produce. You may find that there is a dominant buyer of a product that you are producing, And because they almost enjoy a sort of monopoly in the purchase, they then have very unfair buyer practices that are detrimental to the growth of business. Therefore, this bill has provisions that seek to prohibit such abusive superior bargaining positions by corporate players. It also seeks, Honorable Speaker, to execute a critical logical reorganization by relocating and consolidating buyer power regulations under the newly created Unfair Market Conduct Framework. Further, it strengthens enforcement capabilities by introducing severe administrative penalties tied directly to a firm's gross annual turnover. So that where a firm or a corporate organization or a business has contravened provisions within this act, the provisions of this act, the penalties will be tied directly to your annual turnover. So the bigger the organization or the bigger the business, the higher the penalty will be based on your turnover. Honorable Speaker, on regulation of digital platforms, I indicated that our digital platforms such as online marketplaces, search engines, the app stores that we all use, and social media platforms are now playing a very significant role in commerce. And while these innovations, Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, have created opportunities and employment opportunities for many people, they have also introduced new risks of unfair market dominance and anti-competitive conduct, where, as I said, you may find one, probably because one is more endowed resource-wise, and they have better search engines, they have better resources to deploy in technological innovations. They then engage in very unfair market practices because they become dominant in the market and therefore edge out any competition. And therefore we want to ensure that even in the digital workspace or the digital marketplace, small players, the people who are selling their wares on social media platforms, those who are using app stores that they do not run the search engines and are paying a small fee to use those search engines, are not subjected to unfair trade practices or unfair business competition. And they can be able to fairly compete with even the bigger market players in whatever industry they are in. This bill therefore empowers the Competition Authority of Kenya to effectively regulate digital market activities and ensure fair competition within the digital space, therefore encompassing that new space of the digital marketplace. Honorable Speaker, in strengthening the other key objective I said is to strengthen consumer protection and also address abuse of buyer power. And in strengthening consumer protection, Honorable Speaker, the bill further strengthens protection of consumers against false or misleading misrepresentations or representations relating either to pricing, the quality of a good, guarantees, sponsorship, and even the origin of goods and services, Honorable Speaker, because we have seen instances where people have a certain preference for goods manufactured in Kenya. And a good is manufactured in another country, part of the, without mentioning particular countries because they are friendly nations, in the Far East, for instance. Because probably the cost of production there is cheaper, they imitate a product that is being manufactured in Kenya or even in Germany or in England. I remember, Honorable Speaker, there are hammers. In the old days when I was much younger, people preferred hammers and cutting saws from those that were made in England. And then people will manufacture those things from the Far East and misrepresent this as having been made in England, made in Kenya. And even our own products, our tea is being imitated and just the branding is put as tea made in Kenya or Kenyan tea, but it's actually not Kenyan tea. It is a blend of probably a very small fraction of Kenyan tea with other teas from other places. And therefore, this bill seeks to protect consumers so that when a representation of a product is made, it is made in Kenya, made in England, made in Germany, it actually is made in that particular place where it has been, is being billed, has been made from. Even unfair things like pricing, people are being lied to. A product is marketed online on a digital marketplace as costing so many shillings. But then when you actually go to order on the platform, it charges you from either your MPS or your card a price different from what was represented. And therefore, this bill seeks to protect wananchi from such exploitation or deceptive practices and unfair commercial conduct. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, also the other objective of this bill is to address abuse of buyer power. And as I said, Honorable Speaker, this is one of the key things that this bill seeks to introduce relating to abuse of buyer power. And buyer power, Honorable Speaker, comes in where we have many small suppliers and businesses who continue to suffer from delayed payments, unfair contract termination, unilateral price reductions, and oppressive contractual conditions imposed by dominant buyers. And I gave an example, especially, Honorable Speaker, of the agricultural produce and agricultural products. For instance, and let's just use the one of the industries, the beer sector, Honorable Speaker. We have only one beer brewer, serious big beer brewer who is dominant in the economy, EABL. Therefore, they probably be the only significant buyer of barley or sorghum. And therefore, because they are dominant, they are likely, and I don't say that EABL is doing this, I'm just using them as an example, Honorable Speaker, they are likely to have very unfair contractual termination, terms of contractual terminations with small-time suppliers and small-time growers of barley or sorghum. They may be tempted, Honorable Speaker, to delay payments because if in any case, where will you take your barley or your malt or your sorghum? If they are not buying it, and the other small players in the market who are not dominant may not have the capacity to buy your produce. And not just that, Honorable Speaker, even Safaricom. Safaricom is dominant in the market to some extent. And therefore, you may be a supplier of certain goods and services that you can only sell or probably in a large quantity to Safaricom or to that dominant player. And I'm using these companies, Honorable Speaker, as mere examples, not accusing these companies of being companies that are entertaining unfair trade practices, because I know they have been dominant but been largely been very responsible in the way they conduct their business. But it is possible that you find a dominant player in the market who then takes advantage of their dominance in the market because they are almost like the sole buyer. Even KPLC, for instance, people who are signing power purchase agreements. Who else will you sell power to in Kenya if not KPLC? And therefore, to protect the suppliers, small suppliers, someone who is producing solar power in northern Kenya, someone who is producing wind energy in Marsabit, someone who is producing geothermal from a small well in Menengai or somewhere else, Honorable Speaker, to protect those people from dominant players, dominant buyers, then we are introducing amendments that under this bill will protect and safeguard suppliers, especially small and medium enterprises, by requiring fair contractual terms and imposing sanctions against abusive conduct by the dominant players. Honorable Speaker, in enhancing powers of the Competition Authority, as I said, there are also amendments that seek to enhance the powers of the Competition Authority. And the bill strengthens the investigative and enforcement powers of the Competition Authority to enable it to effectively discharge its mandate. And the authority will have enhanced powers to conduct market inquiries, obtain information, investigate anti-competitive conduct, and enforce compliance with the law. So that, Honorable Speaker, the Competition Authority doesn't become a toothless bulldog or a toothless dog. It has to be one that can bite. So that if any dominant player, whether you are a dominant buyer or a dominant player in any sector or in any industry, the Competition Authority will now have mandate and powers to conduct inquiries without reference to you or to obtain information from other players in the market, investigate any anti-competitive conduct that any player may be engaging in. And this, Honorable Speaker, will in a great way improve efficiency in market regulation and enhance investor confidence. Honorable Speaker, allow me to digress a bit and also speak to the Competition Authority of Kenya. Because CA, or the Competition Authority, has a very important mandate to deliver to the people of Kenya. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, because this is one authority that also has very huge potential. The Competition Authority, after the passage of this bill, with its enhanced powers, should have no business. And I want to speak to the chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee. CA will have no business coming back to this house to look for exchequer allocations or to look for resource allocations. This is one authority that should be able to generate their own resources through appropriations in aid. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, because I am seeing the potential of the Competition Authority to even be able to generate revenue without us having every now and then to keep reviewing our taxation laws to raise revenue. For instance, Honorable Speaker, I have just seen a transaction between Asahi, a Japanese conglomerate, and Diageo, with the purchase of shares in UDV, the distillers, and EABL shares in Diageo. Honorable Speaker, if you look at what was reported in the media, the value of that transaction alone is in excess of 380 billion shillings. 380 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, is not a small amount. But it's a transaction that, for instance, on stamp duty alone, we should be able to raise billions for CA and for KRA. And therefore, I want to be asking the chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee to also engage the Competition Authority on that particular transaction to ensure that we will not see again what happened, I think, around 2019, 2020. Many Kenyans will remember when NCBA Bank, what was then the Commercial Bank of Africa, and NIC Bank merged, or rather CBA bought NIC. And in that merger, Honorable Speaker, we saw the unthinkable. A bank or two commercial banks that were making huge profits at a time when this country was ravaged by the COVID pandemic, when we were losing revenue because other businesses were not making money. Out of state capture, we saw in that merger or in that transaction, because the owners of CBA Bank, Commercial Bank of Africa, held the levers of power, political power. Out of state capture, we saw them exempt themselves from paying close to 300 billion shillings in stamp duty. I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because I do not know who these Asahi and Diageos are, because they're all foreigners. But again, we must not see another instance of state capture where people will use such transactions to evade paying taxes. The Finance and National Planning Committee of this House must ensure that all taxes due are duly paid without exemption, Honorable Speaker. You know, Honorable Speaker, we talk about sin taxes when we are taxing beer or rather alcohol, cigarettes, and such other undesirable things, including betting. But these businesses are there and they live with us, they are playing their role in helping to grow our economy in payment of taxes. And therefore, we want to encourage all other foreign direct investors who want to come and invest in this industry in our country. But even as they come, Honorable Speaker, because the laws are there are levies or there are fees to be paid to the Competition Authority. Chair, National Finance and Planning Committee, you must ensure that all levies and fees due on this transaction between Diageo and Asahi are paid. What is payable is paid and paid in full without exemption. We must not see instances like we saw in the other regime where people are using, and I know you know also some of the owners of EABL, Honorable Speaker, are not small-time people, are not me and you. They are people who have held state power in this country. Therefore, we must ensure that in that transaction, stamp duty is paid. If there's any corporate tax that will be due, it must be paid, and the fees due to CA. And I say this because I want to speak to the Competition Authority. There must be no monkey games in this transaction. I know there are those who are tempted, Honorable Speaker. You know, the danger in this country, Honorable Speaker, and I saw one of our officers from Nairobi City County, a young man called Tyrus Njoroge, asking people on a TV show, if you know you're supposed to pay so much in license fees, then you don't pay, you're not compliant. Then you allow city council officers to come and harass you and demand money in cash for you, and you have been told all you need to do is pay your license fees of 20 or 25,000 shillings digitally. You don't even need to transact in cash with anybody in the city county of Nairobi, but you don't pay for your license fee. Then you allow corruption to thrive within that space, because when enforcement officers come, you want to give them 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings. At the end of the financial year, you'll have paid more than the license fee would have paid. It is the same thing that happens in some of these organizations. And that's why I'm speaking about the Competition Authority. Certain officers in government agencies will now go and tell the investors, what we can do, we can strike a deal. Instead of you paying stamp duty of, say, 38 billion shillings on this 380 billion shillings transaction, we can organize how you will pay a lesser amount, but under the table, give us this much. I want to tell those investors, don't dare. Don't dare. What is in law must be paid as is provided for in law. Only Parliament, and I repeat, only Parliament can vary taxes. National Assembly, not even Parliament, only this house where I'm speaking from. Only the National Assembly has powers under the Constitution and our laws to vary any taxes, or to impose, or to waive, or to exempt any taxes. Not even the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury. That is why every time they need to do something in variation of taxes or fees and levies under the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act, they have to come to this house. And I say that, Honorable Speaker, because in my other life in business, I also get privy to certain information. That is why I specifically address the Competition Authority, to ensure that what is due to Caesar, is it Caesar in the Bible? Yes, what is due to Caesar?
Give unto Caesar.
Give unto Caesar what is due to Caesar.
Yeah.
Therefore, for Asahi and Diageo, what is due to KRA, what is due to Commissioner General KRA, CS Adan Mohammed, please give it to him in full. In full. What is due to the DG, Competition Authority, please pay in full. Honorable Speaker, I just digressed on that because these are things that are live today in our market, and as the guarantors of the people of Kenya to oversight the executive.
You didn't finish the statement. You also give unto God what is due to God.
Oh, yes. I deliberately avoided finishing that statement, Honorable Speaker, because these are people who are in the alcohol business. So that is why I restricted myself, that they give unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar. I do not know whether they give to God, but probably in their private capacities, or even as an organization, if they go to church or to mosques and give to God, may they also give unto God. But part of the great work, for instance, EABL does in terms of, under the EABL Foundation, they do a lot of good work, and which is also part of giving back to God by giving back to the people of Kenya through their CSR under the EABL Foundation. They do a lot of good work, and I must commend EABL for the great work they have been doing. And that's why I'm saying, even as new owners come into that company, may they carry on with the culture that was there under Diageo, that even Asahi, I know the Japanese people are quite generous, that they continue being generous to the people of Kenya by giving unto the people of Kenya. Because giving to the people of Kenya these are the people of God. You are also giving to God, and may they give also to God what is due to God. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that this bill speaks to, and I've touched on it, is clarification of merger and control provisions, and the bill updates provisions relating to mergers and acquisitions to capture modern forms of business control and transactions, including those undertaken by foreign entities whose conduct affects the Kenyan market. And that is why I digressed a bit on that transaction between Diageo and Asahi, because these are foreign-owned companies, but their conduct affects the Kenyan market because, as I said, they must pay what is due to us in taxes, pay what is due to us in terms of levies or A&A for the competition authority. And therefore, I don't need to belabor that point. But this is necessary to ensure that the competition regulation remains effective in a globalized and interconnected economy, because we live in a global economy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, with the enactment of this bill, we will be promoting very fair competition in our marketplace in this country. We will be protecting consumers from exploitation and deceptive trade practices. We also be supporting small and medium enterprises against unfair market conduct, as I said, in the unfair conduct by dominant buyers. We also be strengthening regulation of our digital markets and emerging technologies, and also enhance investor confidence and market transparency, as we also align Kenya's competition framework with international best practices. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this bill is very timely and necessary in today's world, and it responds to emerging economic realities and strengthens Kenya's legal framework to support a competitive, innovative, and consumer-friendly economy. It is a bill against unfair business, designed to guarantee that the hardworking Kenyan entrepreneurs and the Kenyan consumers, everyday consumer of goods, are fully protected from corporate exploitation or the exploitation by those who are in business. I therefore urge all of us as guarantors of the rights of the Kenyan people and as their representatives to support this bill in amending the Competition Act under this amendment bill of 2026. I therefore beg to move, and I want to request the very brilliant and able chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee, the member for Molo, who is a very diligent chair of the committee and a great servant of the people of Molo. A man who, Honorable Speaker, I told you the other Saturday I went to his constituency, and there, when people go there shouting one term, the public in Molo tell them their member of parliament is not one term. He's already done his first, second, he's going for the third term. So the young people, border riders, told me as I went to pick my vehicle that please continue supporting our member of parliament, because he is very supportive of the work of the National Assembly and very supportive of us as his constituents. And we tell those who come to shout one term here that it is them who can serve one term. The member for Molo, Honorable Kimani Kuria, is doing his third term. He'll be back here doing his third term after he finishes his second term, because some are trying to hate on him or hit on him because of his great work. But let me say, Honorable Speaker, it is rare. And I know because I have been around for some time just like you, Honorable Speaker. And you have been in this house with many members of parliament, previous members of parliament from Molo. Whether you begin from the late Keheka Kimani, whether you talk of Jenga Mungai, whether you talk of the former member Kiuna, whether you talk of Mukiri, Jacob Mukiri, the people of Molo have never produced a more brilliant, more focused, and more diligent member of parliament than the Honorable Francis Kimani Kuria. And I don't say this because he has the name Kimani somewhere. I say it because he has been able to exhibit that brilliance, that intelligence, and the commitment to shepherd this country to greater development and prosperity, not just for the people of Molo, but for the people of Kenya. It is rare to find such focused young leaders, Honorable Speaker. Many young leaders in today's world are getting tempted to want to speak to the things they hear out there. And you saw some here speaking about Mutumba things that were nowhere during the finance bill. You have seen some even attempt to apologize to the people of Kenya belatedly because they cannot match the brilliance of Honorable Kimani Kuria. And I want to encourage my brother Kimani Kuria. He is going places. If the people of Molo had doubt, they can hear it from me. And I am older than him, so I know. I beg to ask, with immense respect, the member for Molo to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my senior and my leader of majority, and also for your very kind words. I have learned from the best. Because remember when you came here to this house, I said the other day, we became your students, we became your mentees. And every time we would wonder which standing order to stand on, we would come to you and we'll ask which one it is. And you're very generous to tell us who it is, rather than to go to 105 and scrabbling on trying to ask ChatGPT arbitrate too late, and without specializing whether it is Senate standing orders or. And indeed, leader of majority, the people of Moloch have told me this again and again. They sent me to the National Assembly on a mandate. They cannot all come to this house to debate matters. And so they said, we are taking one of you to go and debate in that house. That's why, Honorable Speaker, I take my time and work seriously at the National Assembly because that's where I'm sent and that's why I'm paid to work, Honorable Speaker. And there can be, unfortunately, because our work is not as audited as it is, in my previous job, in the field of finance, there were very strict working hours. There were very strict KPIs, and unfortunately, in Parliament, that's one of the things we've not been able to implement. Because an important business like today, there are very few members in the House, and there is probably nothing that will be done, and they still be paid very handsomely to work here, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, even before I begin this, on where the Honorable Majority left, my leader of majority, I think we might have to rethink the decision we made on our Director General for Competition Authority, because I think there needs to be restriction of when you need to start campaigning when you want an elective seat. Because now people get appointed into elective office, they're not in office, and they're always out there in the field. But that's not what I want to debate this afternoon, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, imagine one team has 15 players, and the other one has seven players. And the bigger team is allowed now to compete with the smaller team. One team is 15 players, the other one is 17. And because the bigger team is bigger, then they dictate that the smaller team can only play 7 of them. Or imagine if the bigger team kept changing goalposts. When you're about to score, they change the goalposts. Or they said the whistle can only be used on the small team and not the big team. Would that really be a football match? So this is what this amendment to the Competition Authority Act is doing. It wants to make sure that the big team and the small team have the same equal number of players. There is no change of rules in the middle of the game, and the whistle applies to all the teams, whether it is the small team Arsenal or the big team Manchester United. So, Honorable Speaker, Kenya has always been a nation of hustlers and innovators. From the village to the market to M-Pesa, from the matatu stage to the smartphone, we have thrived by creative opportunity where none existed. But today, Honorable Speaker, a new challenge faces our entrepreneurs. The rise of powerful digital platforms and dominant players who can dictate terms, delay payments, and squeeze the very people who built our economy from the ground up. This bill, Honorable Speaker, is not about punishing success. It is about ensuring that success does not become a weapon used against the smaller players. It is about bringing the spirit of fairness that has defined Kenyan enterprise into the digital age of the modern workplace. Honorable Speaker, we are upgrading our competition laws from the analog era to the algorithm era. while putting a fairness shield around our MSMEs, farmers, suppliers, and digital hustlers. Mr. Speaker, when our young people wake up in the morning and open their phones, they're not just entering a marketplace, they are also entering someone else's territory. The rules of that territory are written by the algorithms they did not code, enforced by terms they did not negotiate, and controlled by platforms they cannot challenge. Today, we are going to bring those rules under the light of the Kenyan law. Mr. Speaker, in Molo and across the country, our farmers and small traders are not asking for favors. They're asking for fairness. When a small supplier waits for 120 days for payment from a powerful buyer, or when a digital platform takes 30% and still changes the rules overnight, that is not competition. That is conquest. The bill says conquest is going to end with this law. Our current Competition Act was written by a different economy, one of factories, physical shops, and traditional supply chains. It was not designed for digital platforms that control access to millions of customers with zero switching costs for the platform but huge costs for users. It was not made for powerful buyers like supermarkets, processors, exporters, digital marketplaces, who can unilaterally change the terms, delay payments, and demand extra fees because suppliers have nowhere else to go. It was not designed for data advantages and network effects that create winner-takes-most market oversight, markets almost overnight. It was not made for data advantage and network effects that create what the Honorable KJ will call winner-takes-most markets almost overnight. Situations where a company does not have 50% market share, but still has enormous power under its counterparties. What does this provide, Honorable Speaker? This bill is providing 4 key pillars. Pillar number 1 is regulating the new digital gatekeepers. We are not against the gates. What we are doing, Honorable Speaker, is installing traffic lights and a fair toll system. We are changing definitions through key innovations in this bill, Honorable Speaker. By, for example, digital activity, introducing words like digital activity, digital marketplace, multi-home, and immediate transaction. We're introducing new concepts like strategic market position in digital marketplaces assessed by network effects, data access, switching cost, and importance as an intermediary, not just traditional market share. This bill is capturing platforms that they may have less than 40% share, but enormous power because everyone has to go through them. Our pillar number 2, Honorable Speaker, is creating a fairness shield and prevent abuse of power and abuse of superior bargaining position, Honorable Speaker. We are giving the small fish a shield when swimming with the sharks without necessarily burning the ocean. This is perhaps the most transformative part of the bill. It is creating a new Part 3A on unfair market conduct and introducing abuse of superior bargaining position as a distinct prohibition. It is protecting counterparties, that is suppliers, small businesses, content creators, app developers, even when the powerful party does not have a dominant market position in the traditional sense. What this prohibition conduct is including is 1, unilateral variation of terms without notice. You can no longer now vary terms without giving a notice. And we've seen, Honorable Speaker, this especially with our supermarkets. Where some of the big supermarkets have been receiving goods from small traders, only for them to change the payment terms overnight without even consulting the small suppliers. We are going to prohibit transfer of risk, of cost and risks to the weaker party. Where a risk is facing a business, whether it is what the real majority party was trying to big players like ABL, and there's a risk of drought, then they transfer that risk, Honorable Speaker, to the small farmers, Honorable Speaker. It is imposing purchase prices below competitive levels or service fees above competition levels. It's prohibiting unreasonable data collection or obstruction of business activities, And lastly, the authority can now develop code of practice and impose reporting requirements, which is a much smarter and sector-sensitive approach. Our key number 3 that this bill is going to do is faster and smarter enforcement. As it's popularly said, justice delayed in competition matters is justice denied to the hustler waiting for payment. The new Section 91A is introducing administrative enforcement action, which is going to be absolute game changer. There's now going to be written warnings and specific remedial directions. There's going to be administrative penalties up to 10% of gross annual turnover in Kenya, which is recoverable, Honorable Speaker, as a civil debt. It's going to suspend revocation or variations of rights and privileges. It's going to require fair hearings before penalties and going to ensure that due process is protected. Pillar number 4, Honorable Speaker, from this bill is modern consumer protection and institutional strengthening. There's going to be expanded false, misleading representation, which will include withholding material information on quarterly basis. It's going to have mergers definition expanded to cover privatization of state corporations that engage in trade. Honorable Speaker, this is a very, very important and material amendment, Honorable Speaker, because with this House passage of government-owned enterprises, it means now we have government-owned enterprises that are going to do business and therefore compete with other businesses. And therefore, we are also bringing these ones under the purview of the Competition Authority of Kenya so that they do not go to offer unfair competition to other private businesses, Honorable Speaker. It's also going to give authority the authority will be empowered to foster strategic national, regional, international partnerships. And lastly, on this particular pillar, is going to ensure that the abuse of buyer power provisions restructured and strengthened under the new unfair market conduct part. Why are these matters matter for Kenya's bottom-up transformation? The bill is not just a technical law reform. It is an economic justice legislation. And as I said earlier, Honorable Speaker, this again demonstrates that Kenya Kwanza administration is implementing its manifesto law by law, step by step, policy by policy, product by product, Honorable Speaker. It's going to protect MSMEs and suppliers who are the backbone of our manufacturing and agricultural value chains. It's going to create a more predictable and fair environment that actually attracts responsible long-term investment. It's going to empower the digital hustler, the young person selling online, the content creator, the app developer, and it's going to ensure that they are not subject to platform abuse. It's going to align Kenya with global best practice by EU, DMA, and DSA thinking, but tailored to our context while protecting our sovereignty over our markets. And it's going to support the President's bottom-up reform agenda by ensuring that the growth at the top does not crush the opportunities at the bottom. Honorable Speaker, that the growth at the top should not crush the opportunities at the bottom of the pyramid, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what are some of the questions that we may ask ourselves of this bill? Someone will ask, won't this scare away investors and big technologies and big techs? And the answer is, Honorable Speaker, on the contrary, responsible investors want clear, predictable, and fair rules. What scares capital is uncertainty and the ability of dominant players to change the game overnight. This bill is now creating a level playing field, the best magnet for sustainable investment. Someone will ask, Honorable Speaker, is this anti-business or anti-success? On the contrary, Honorable Speaker, this bill is pro-competition, but also pro-enterprise. It says, grow as big as you want through innovation and efficiency, but do not use your size or your superior position to crush the small player who has no realistic alternative. This is not success, that will be abuse. And someone else was asked, Honorable Speaker, how does this then help ordinary Kenyans, especially those in rural areas? Every time a supplier in Molo, in Mombasa, in Dagoretti, in Kikuyu, or anywhere else in this country is paid late, or has cost arbitrarily shifted onto them, or loses access to a market because a powerful buyer changed the rules, that is money that should have gone to school fees, medical bills, and local reinvestment. This bill puts that money back where it belongs, to the pockets of those ordinary Kenyans. We are not against success, Honorable Speaker. We are against success being used as a weapon. From the village market to the app store, every Kenyan household deserves a fair referee. This bill gives the small supplier a shield, not a handout. We welcome the big players. We insist they must play by fair rules. The algorithms in our digital platforms should not be above the law. Justice Speaker, in competition, justice in competition, Honorable Speaker, matters. Justice in competition matters, Honorable Speaker, should not require a PhD in economics or decades of court cases. A competitive Kenya is a fair Kenya, and a fair Kenya is certainly an unstoppable Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is a statement of intent. It says that as Kenya grows into a digital service-driven and globally connected economy, we will not leave our values of fairness, equity, and opportunity at the door. We will carry them into every marketplace, whether physical or digital, and we will defend them with all the full face of the law. And where necessary, like now, we shall change the law to protect our small and medium enterprises, to protect our digital creators, to protect our small digital platforms, to protect our small players, to protect our small businesses from the dominance of the big ones that refuse to play by the rule. Fairness must be done by both the big companies, the big techs, and the small ones. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you, Honorable Kimani Kuria Kimani. You know, you second in a manner that disables every other debater from making their own contributions. But honorable members, let me now propose the question that the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026 be now read a second time. The Honorable Samsam Chimba is recognized.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Kuria Kimani. Kwa kweli kama alivyosema ndugu yangu Ichungwa ni kuwa wale waliompigia kura wamepata kiongozi mahiri sana, kiongozi mwenye akili, kiongozi ambaye amefikiria wanyonge. Na kila akija katika bunge hili Mheshimiwa Spika, yale maneno ambayo anazungumza ni ya kuhusu yule Mkenya wa chini, yule ambaye anajaribu kuinuka, ambaye alikuwa anafinywa miaka za nyuma, sasa anaweza kuleta sheria ambayo inaweza kuinua Wakenya. Mimi ningewaomba tu watu wa kule kwa Mheshimiwa Kuria, mkimpoteza mmepoteza dhahabu. Mheshimiwa Spika, niweze kuunga mkono hii Competition Amendment Bill ambayo ni bill namba 4 ya mwaka wa 2026. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa hapa katika taifa Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna watu ambao wamekuwa kiwanyanyasa wanabiashara wadogo wadogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata mtu ana kampuni kubwa ama anashirikiana na wenzake wenye makampuni makubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tukisema Mkenya ana haki ya kuweza kuinuka kwa ile biashara yake kidogo, analima kahawa, analima korosho, na anaweza kuinuka Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini unapata makampuni makubwa siku zote walikuwa wanaweza kushikana kuwanyanyasa wale ambao ni wadogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia imezungumzwa wazi kuwa hata hii ndio imekuwa sababu ya chai ya Kenya ambayo ni Ketepa. Unapata sasa watu wanajificha nyuma yake, wanaweka brand ambao ni aketepa kwa chai ambao si aketepa, kwa sababu pengine wamefinyiliwa chini, wameshindwa kukua, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini sheria hii ambayo inaletwa katika bunge hili ni ya kumpa kila Mkenya aliyoko juu, aliyoko chini, uhaki na usawa wa kuweza kufanya biashara bila kufinyiliwa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tukiangalia hata mfano mwingine, umezungumza juu ya Safaricom, na mimi nitaka nizungumze pengine juu ya grain handlers, Mheshimiwa Spika. Unapata kuna monopoly katika grain handlers, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambapo sasa mkulima pengine ana mazao yake yamejaa shamba, lakini kwa vile ni mtu mmoja ambaye ndio anafanya hii biashara ya grain handling, unaona amemsimamisha mkulima kule chini, bidhaa zake ndani ya shamba zinaoza, hawezi kupata mazao mazuri kutokana na jasho alilolitoa kwenye shamba yake, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu kuna mtu mmoja peke yake ambaye amepewa nafasi ya kufanya hii biashara, amefinya wenzake na yeye anafanya vile anavyotaka, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tukiwa na competition katika hii biashara, nione pengine grain handlers huyu yuko Autoport amepata huku, so ule mkulima anachagua, hii bidhaa yangu nitapeleka kwa nani? Nipeleke kwa huyu niuze haraka ama nipeleke kwa huyu niuze haraka? Kwa hiyo tukiwa na ile competition pia, Mheshimiwa Spika, biashara nyingi sana tutazifufua katika taifa, na ushuru utakuwa unatoka vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao mazao ya taifa na uchumi wa Kenya unaweza kupanda juu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ukiachia mtu mmoja tu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio maana unasikia anakwepa ushuru, mara anatafuta yule amhonge, anatafuta huyu amhonge kwa sababu yuko peke yake. Lakini ikiwa tutafungua mianya na sheria hii ambayo imeletwa leo na Mheshimiwa Kuria na kamati yake, hii sheria ni ya kuinua uchumi wa Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Yule ana biashara, huyo ana biashara katika uwanja wa dijitali, Mheshimiwa Spika. Unapata hata wakati huu tuko na kina ChatGPT, sijui tuko na kina Google, tuko na kina nani, wachezaji tofauti tofauti, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo inaweza kuinua uchumi wa taifa na hata mataifa ya nje, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuna wawekezaji wengi sana ambao wanatamani kuingia katika taifa kuweza kuwekeza, lakini kwa sababu kuna wale samaki wakubwa ambao wameshika sekta fulani, ni wao peke yake, Mheshimiwa Spika, hawatoi mwanya, kwa sababu sheria ambayo iko wakati huu ni sheria ambayo haijatoa mwanya kwa wale wanabiashara wote kuweza kuinuka pamoja, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo hii itafungua biashara nyingi katika taifa, tutapata wengi kutoka nje wakileta bidhaa zao, na mimi sitachoka kusema mfano wa Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu nimetumia ushuru wa Mkenya kwenda kule kwenda kusoma, na nashukuru taifa hili kunichukua mimi mama Mombasa kwenda kule kwenda kuangalia mambo ambayo yanaendelea. Zamani hapa Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa majumba yanajengwa tu na wanabiashara wengine, lakini sasa hii tumepata Kenya, Wakenya wenyewe wanatoa ule mchango wao kuweza kujenga affordable housing ambayo itakuja kushika Mkenya yule na yule ambao walikuwa hawana makao waweza kupata makao. Nimeona mfano huu kule Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza kufanya vizuri, na kila mwananchi wa Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuna ambaye hana makao, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hili jambo tukiweza kulifanya katika taifa ni jambo ambalo litakuza uchumi na kila Mkenya atakaa na furaha, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nikirudi pia ukiangalia katika bandari lao, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao ni ports, kila dakika 4 Singapore meli inaingia, kila dakika 4. Hiyo ni kuonyesha uchumi na competition iko ya biashara, watu wamewekewa, huyu anaingiza mali yake, huyu anaingiza mali yake, na hapo ndio wale wananchi wanapata nafasi ya kufanya biashara tofauti, na wengine wakipata mwanya wa kufanya kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ule uchumi na usikia vile uko juu katika dunia, ni kwa sababu walitoa mwanya na competition ya wale ambao wanaweza kuwekeza, waje wekeze katika biashara tofauti tofauti, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimeipenda bili hii kama mama Mombasa, nina mengi ya kuzungumza, lakini niweze kusema Mheshimiwa Kuria na timu yako, mmefanya jambo la maana katika taifa hili, na itaingia katika kumbukumbu ya vitabu vya historia katika Kenya kuwa ulikuwa katika ile kamati ambayo iliweza kutoa mwanya kwa Wakenya wote kuweza fanya biashara bila kudhulumiwa, bila kuonewa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa tuliona wakati ule mfano wa ile benki wakaja wakashikana, kumbe pesa pia zinaenda mataifa mengine. Kwa hiyo ilikuwa inafanya uchumi wa taifa unarudi nyuma, na niweze kusema hii ndio sababu Mheshimiwa Rais ana anachukiwa na watu ambao ni big fish, kwa sababu ametoa mwanya wa Wakenya wote kila sehemu waweze kupata maendeleo na kuweza kufanya biashara bila kubughudhiwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka nimwambie Mheshimiwa Rais, hii timu ambayo uko nayo kwa wakati huu ni timu ambayo imebobea katika akili, akiwemo mama Mombasa County. Jambo lolote zuri, mimi nitakuwa nasimama katika ukumbi huu nikizungumza kwa sauti moja na kuweza kulipongeza ili liweze kufanya kazi na Kenya iendelee. Wala asione haya akasema sijui watu wanazungumza nini. Mambo kama haya ndo tulikuwa tunatamani miaka mingi ndani ya taifa, tuone kuwa Wakenya wote katika sehemu ya Kenya wanapewa haki sawa sawa. Wale ambao walikuwa wamezoea kuwa biashara hii ni yetu sisi pekee, ole wenu. Mara hii kuna Kuria Kimani na timu yake wamekuja na bongo ambazo ni za kisawa sawa, ambazo zinaweza kuinua uchumi wa Kenya. Na sisi kama kutoka Mombasa tunakuambia Mheshimiwa Rais, zidi kuchapa kazi. Mambo sijui ya tutam na ngapi, hayo ni ya Mungu. Umechaguliwa wewe, chapa kazi. Hapo mbele wananchi wataamua kufuatana na kazi ambayo umeifanya. Kwa hiyo mimi nashukuru kama mama Mombasa na napongeza hii bill na naweza kuiunga mkono. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the initiator of the bill, the Majority Leader Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah, for bringing this bill on Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026. Mr. Speaker, like many other speakers have said, these are very important bill, Mr. Speaker, and I have many reasons why I say so. If you look at countries like South Africa, Mr. Speaker, countries like Nigeria, Mr. Speaker, countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, and Australia, which are progressive nations, Mr. Speaker, all these countries have a competition bill. The reason why they have this bill is to regulate competition, business, literally, Mr. Speaker. And by this I mean, we are talking of digital market, Mr. Speaker. And this is an area where most of the young people are actually involved, Mr. Speaker. So having a competition bill, Mr. Speaker, is to go to ensure we protect young entrepreneurs, young businessmen and women who are actually involved in digital space, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, this particular bill is going to ensure there is no unfair competition, Mr. Speaker, which has been occurring because you find many a time when you don't protect small entrepreneurs, small businesses, Mr. Speaker, the big businesses with the more purchasing power tend to outshine these small businesses, Mr. Speaker. And that is why business competition law is so critical, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, this bill gives the Competition Authority of Kenya some power. It gives it the tooth or the teeth to bite, Mr. Speaker, because any violator of the regulation provided under this particular law, under this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, they are going to face punitive measures or punitive taxations or penalties that are going to be imposed by the Competition Authority of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I'm saying we are giving it power, authority to be able to do their job and to ensure there is fair competition, particularly within the digital platform, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, by having this particular competition bill, Mr. Speaker, we are going to protect consumers, local consumers, Mr. Speaker, because by ensuring all investors comply with the regulation provided under the law, then all Kenyans, the consumers of online businesses, will be protected under this particular law, Mr. Speaker. And that is the reason why, as people's representative, I stand strongly to support the amendment bill that has been brought forward by the majority leader together with the chair for finance, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, this bill is going to mitigate the cartel operations. We have having cartels who have actually ensured the small business do not thrive, Mr. Speaker, by enforcing price-fixing agreements among main business vices that tend to work against small entrepreneurs, Mr. Speaker. And that's why this bill is very critical to be able to mitigate and to ensure we reduce the powers of cartels, Mr. Speaker, by having this competition law. Another important element of the bill is to ensure it eliminates abuse of dominant market positions. These are big players who have been dominating in the industry, and this particular bill is going to reduce the powers these dominating players have over the time, Mr. Speaker. And that is why fair competition will be achieved as one of the output of having this particular bill, Mr. Speaker. The other element is it mitigates bid rigging. These are some of the vices that have been going on, and this bill prohibits all this, and that champions or promotes fairness within the industry, Mr. Speaker. So to summarize my only summary, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that through having the competition bill, we are going to ensure investor confidence and transparency has been enhanced in the country, Mr. Speaker. And that is what will also enhance job creation, Mr. Speaker. Because the moment investors have trust in the country and want to come and be able to invest right here in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, that is going to generate employment opportunities, particularly for young people, Mr. Speaker. And that is going to mitigate the mushrooming unemployment that has been witnessed in the country or that has been registered in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Another important element which composes part of my summary is going to protect, as I've said, local consumers and also protect small businesses, particularly those who have been subjected to unfair trend or unfair competition, Mr. Speaker. And then it's going to ensure the youth who want to join the digital space or to join digital marketing or digital businesses have a chance to participate, Mr. Speaker. And that is what is going to support local entrepreneurship. Those with the skill will be able to apply the skills locally, Mr. Speaker, by having a bill or a regulation that we are crafting or that we are amending as a House, Mr. Speaker. As a long-term outcome, Mr. Speaker, I'm foreseeing this country generating revenue through this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, because the moment you have most players, small, medium, and big players, Mr. Speaker, all supported under the particular competition bill, Mr. Speaker, the country will be able to generate revenue through taxation, and that is important to support or to finance projects for the country and put Kenya in the next pace of economic growth, Mr. Speaker. And then lastly, Mr. Speaker, the bill will ensure watertight measures, particularly to tax evaders. Those who have been evading taxes, more so foreign investors who have been coming and evading taxes, Mr. Speaker. By having this competition bill, those tax evaders will have no chance to run away from paying taxes in the country. And that's why this particular bill also tends to tie very closely with the immediate bill that we were discussing on the business laws, which I also wanted to contribute, but unfortunately has been adjourned to the next session, and I'm sure I'll be also able to get a chance to hear my voice, Mr. Speaker. So with those few remarks, I support the amendment bill, and I'll be able to move few amendments when you come to the Committee of the Whole House. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Robert Basil. The Honorable Dr. Eve Akinyi-Obara, MP for Kabondo Kasipul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and may I also at onset stand to support the bill, the amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, we have noted here that the purpose of this bill was to strengthen regulations of markets, promote fair competition, and enhance consumer protection. Mr. Speaker, while at the same time addressing the emerging challenges in modern and digital markets. Mr. Speaker, I've seen at least 6 key provisions of this amendment, Mr. Speaker. The first one is on strengthening the role of the Competition Authority. Mr. Speaker, this will enhance the powers of the Competition Authority to be able to investigate anti-competitive practices. Mr. Speaker, this will enforce compliance and impose sanctions. The second one will be on regulations of anti-competitive conduct. Mr. Speaker, this expands provisions dealing with cartels, abuse of dominance, and restrictive trade practices. Mr. Speaker, this will provide clearer standards for identifying and penalizing anti-competitive behavior. Then we also have merger controls and approvals, Mr. Speaker, which refines procedure for merger notifications and approval, including thresholds and, of course, timelines. And this aims to prevent market concentration that may harm competition. Consumer protection is also a key provision in this amendment bill, and it strengthens protection against unfair trade practices, misleading conduct, and exploitation of consumers. Then we have the digital emerging markets, Mr. Speaker, and this introduces provisions to address competition issues in digital platforms and online markets, and then including dominance and data-related concerns. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on penalties and enforcement, there will be update penalties for violation of competition law to ensure they are deterrent and proportionate. Mr. Speaker, overall, this amendment